because the algorithm on Instagram is changing constantly, and I find as a influencer content creator that certain things that would have worked maybe several months ago not necessarily has to work in the next 2 months. Short form content where 3-second ads or 3-second creatives were doing so well at one point, and now we're going back to long form where it's at least a 3-minute reel that's back on the gram. So I personally like the long form content because that you can actually communicate a lot more, and it's more, you have more depth versus the short form content, which is more like an entertainment, more for. And I also find that due to these YouTube shorts or short form content, people's patience level has gone down so much.
Yeah, the algorithm, of course, as a content creator, the algorithm is very difficult to crack. Even as a brand, it's going to be hard for you to kind of figure out the algorithm. So the only way in which you can actually reach out is through influencer marketing. But then it's different. Like there is a formula, but it's like it depends on the brand. Like the formula for a FMCG is different from a luxury thing. Even in luxury, there are two things. A traditional jewelry owner, the marketing is completely different from, let's say, a high-end car or a luxury bag. It's way easier for a content creator to sell a luxury bag because of that FOMO, the fear of missing out kind of a campaign. I can make it look really cool. But when it comes to a traditional jewelry brand, it's harder for me to convince because jewelry is something that people are like, there is still brand loyalty as far as jewelry is concerned, right?
So finding a good digital marketing agency, making sure that all the aspects of from starting with the website, making sure your website is cleaned up and done, because that is very important. I think the website is the main thing, right? Well, that's the face of the brand. So when a person wants to see if you have a website online, you see the face of the brand. Or when it comes to social media, that will be the face of the brand. So that has to be impeccably correct and attractive. So that's feedback I've always gotten. Make sure that the face of the brand is first.
I have a feeling a lot of these luxury brands are going to have like their own AI model, and then we'll follow them. Like we'll follow an LV AI model, which will be a face, and I'll be in love with them, and whatever she wears, I'm also going to wear. I have a feeling that's what's going to happen. It's not going to be real people. It's going to be just imaginary representation of that particular brand where, she wears clothes in a certain way, she dresses in a certain way, and everything she wears is something that, you would aspire to be. I think that's what's...
I'm Aditi Ganeshan, the newly inducted Joint Secretary of the GI Alumni Collective Chennai. I would like to welcome all of you here, and I would like to thank our panelists, Bindya and Farhana, for being here. Farhana Suhail, she is the founder of New to Chennai, a popular Instagram platform dedicated to supporting small businesses in Chennai. One of the most popular Instagram channels for all things Chennai, a go-to for most people wanting to find places and events happening in the city. Through engaging content and insightful recommendation, she has helped numerous entrepreneurs gain visibility and grow their brands. Her dedication was recognized by the Tamil Nadu Tourism Development Corporation, which honored her as the best influencer for her significant contribution to the community. As a jury member for the Homepreneur Awards, she champions women-led and home-based businesses, inspiring countless dreamers to turn their passion into thriving ventures. Welcome. Our next panelist for today is Bindya Devi Taluri. She is a content creator known for her relatable beauty, luxury collaboration, and fashion videos on Instagram, where she shares practical tips for everyday women. She is also the founder of Bint Beauty, a luxury organic makeup brand infused with skincare. With long-term collaborations with brands like Estee Lauder and Dyson, she has also partnered with Charlotte Tilbury, Pixie Beauty, and many more. Her brand Bint Beauty recently won the Elle Beauty Award and has been featured in Vogue, Elle, Harper Bazaar, and Cosmopolitan. Through her content, Bindya aims to inspire women to feel confident and beautiful. Welcome. Today, we're having an exciting discussion on how social media and influencers are influencing consumers and transforming the jewelry industry. We'll explore how influencers shape buying behavior, the role of social media in conversations versus awareness, and what the future holds for influencer marketing in the jewelry space. Welcome to both of you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. So, to start with, Farhana, as someone who connects brands with social media audiences, what do you think makes influencers so effective in shaping consumer perception of luxury brands and commodities?
Um, Before I actually answer your question, I would like to first say what is influencer marketing. I think there's a lot of fear and confusion about the word influencer marketing. Am I audible to everybody? Yeah? Okay. Influencer marketing is nothing but a new age advertising platform. Just like you had your TV ads, celebrity TV ads, you had your newspapers earlier. Now we have social media marketing, which is the influencer marketing. And that's because, of course, coming to your question, because the consumer has changed, right? Earlier, there were less brands, there was less competition. So, an ad in the paper, a single piece of jewelry was enough to kind of get the consumer to come to your store. But now you have so much content out there, you need to show a lot more. Just a single static image of a statement necklace doesn't cut it anymore for the new generation. They want to see more, they want to relate to the item. So, anything that an influencer does, not celebrity, but an influencer does, because they want to connect with you on a personal basis, right? So, that particular normal person like you and me resonates more with the audience of today rather than what it was earlier, where we look more like, if we use Lux soap, I wanted to buy Lux soap, right? But not anymore. Now I know she's being paid, and I know it's just an endorsement. I relate more to my next door neighbor who is using her Lux soap, right? So, I think influencers have changed the game in the sense that they are doing such beautiful storytelling of your brand, talking about the craftsmanship, talking about your brand story. It's more than just a static ad. And that's what's required for today's generation to actually get your brand noticed. Like, they'll only notice you if you are able to speak more than just a static piece, right? So, yeah, so that's what the influencers have shaped, not just luxury market, but in general, the entire market, the entire marketing scene has changed.
The whole perception of
Has changed. Yeah.
yeah. So, Dinya, you have worked with luxury brands in beauty and fashion. So, what elements of influencer content help create a desire for these kind of commodities, particularly jewelry?
So basically, see, I think when it comes to content creation for with influencers, particularly, I find like this, like she says, is storytelling where the consumer wants to know exactly who the person is behind the brand. What is the person has, what the brand has to offer to them. So it's almost like speaking to, like, via me to the consumer. So if a brand, if like, for example, a jewelry brand, right? If they want to talk about their designs are from the thought process behind a design. So you can communicate a lot more via a content creator or influencer. And that kind of resonates and kind of relates to the end consumer. So when it comes to especially luxury aspirational brands, like jewelry is an aspirational, it's expensive. So when it comes to things like that, I don't think quick picture or a quick video would do justice to the brand. And it's something that you have to actually kind of build in a long-term process to the consumer.
Mm, mm, yeah. So, there was a period when we had big print media and, like lots of ads that were being flooded on television and stuff. But now I think there is a small shift where there's a shorter content form. Like, there are reels and there are shorts, and the content that is being put out by brands has also had a small shift in what they're targeting as well. So, how has this changed their interaction with the brands? And can you both share insights on how these formats drive engagement or, drive consumer conversions in today's period?
So actually, I think Farna would agree with me on this because the algorithm on Instagram is changing constantly, and I find as a influencer content creator that certain things that would have worked maybe several months ago not necessarily has to work in the next 2 months. Short form content where 3-second ads or 3-second creatives were doing so well at one point, and now we're going back to long form when certainly is a 3-minute reel that's back on the gram. So I personally like the long form content because that you can actually communicate a lot more, and it's more, you have more depth versus the short form content, which is more like an entertainment, more for. And I also find that due to these YouTube shorts or short form content, people's patience level has gone down so much. They don't want to sit and watch a long video. They want what's next, what's next. So that I find is actually going to be an issue in the long run, even when it comes to children, where they don't have patience anymore. The 3 second, they want what's next, what's the next new thing. So even as a consumer, I find that as a content creator, I find it difficult to kind of portray that message in the short 30 seconds that we used to have earlier. But now that the content form is lengthened a little more, I find it much better. And also, I think brands, as we go forward, will look into the long form content, because that's where the storytelling happens, right?
That's true. Yeah. And you have anything to add on to that, Bayana?
Yeah, the algorithm, of course, as a content creator, the algorithm is very difficult to crack. Even as a brand, it's going to be hard for you to kind of figure out the algorithm. So the only way in which you can actually reach out is through influencer marketing. But then it's different. Like there is a formula, but it's like it depends on the brand. Like the formula for a FMCG is different from a luxury thing. Even in luxury, there are two things. A traditional jewelry owner, the marketing is completely different from, let's say, a high-end car or a luxury bag. It's way easier for a content creator to sell a luxury bag because of that FOMO, the fear of missing out kind of a campaign. I can make it look really cool. But when it comes to a traditional jewelry brand, it's harder for me to convince, because jewelry is something that people are like, there is still brand loyalty as far as jewelry is concerned, right? When I go to a jeweler, I am fixed with that jeweler. It's very hard for me to move. So as a content creator, also for me, it's harder to sell a traditional jewelry brand, but at the same time, other luxury goods, I'm very good at selling. I'm able to sell something. But when it comes to traditional jewelry, there has to be a brand story. It's a way longer process.
It's a long term.
You cannot do an overnight campaign. It has to be a longer campaign. It has to be like a 6-month or a yearly well-set campaign. This is what we're going to do in month 1. This is what is going to be the strategy in month 2. So you have to have a proper strategy for a traditional business, jewelry business.
Also, I would like to add in there that when it comes to jewelry via social media, I think it's more than conversions. Firstly, I feel it's more of the brand awareness. Absolutely. So the brand awareness is where it actually happens, especially because it's jewelry. And once the brand awareness happens, then the loyalty comes in, and then your conversions happen. Okay. So, and then of course, you go back to the same person once you're very happy with the way jewelry is turned up. So that is, when it comes to jewelry, I think it's more about the brand awareness. Conversions happen when it's a smaller, like fashion, makeup, fashion, accessories, things like that. So conversion rate when it comes to when you talk about social media, small format things are for fashion accessories, things like that. But high-end luxury items, conversions will take some time.
Yeah. So, like you said, it's more for brand awareness when you come to this. But there are lots of luxury brands that have actually made good use of social media and leveraged it well. So, any brand on the top of your mind, if anything in jewelry that you think that actually has leveraged social media well and played the game right?
I was talking to Sabyasachi just now. Okay. Yeah. So Sabyasachi, I think, although they have really they have some really good investors there, but the way, I mean, it's a fashion brand at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay. But, and of course, they're charging that much more because of the brand. The way he's used social media to portray the designs, the way he's built his brand via social media, I think is phenomenal. And that's one of the aspirational luxury brands who has not been in jewelry, has entered the jewelry market as a designer brand and has put India on the map. So I think has global. I mean, when you think of jewelry, I mean, not necessarily fashion jewelry, I would say Sabyasachi.
A luxury brand that really...
But used social media. Correct. So that brand has leveraged social media in, I would, Sabyasachi. An Indian jewelry.
Yeah, I'm a bit closer to home. The Chennai brand Ananya Fine Jewelry. I mean, I think she's gone international. She's a young girl, and the way I'm wearing it. I mean, I know it's overpriced. Sorry, but I'm wearing it because it's really cool. It adds to the whole status thing.
Yeah.
You know, the way she's built around this simple piece. You know, the way she's built a story around this. The way the celebrities are wearing it, and she's become so big.
I agree to her.
Yeah, and from Chennai, it's really proud.
Trust me, I've worn it all over, and every time people have called, stopped me and said, "Where is that from? Where is this from?"
Yeah.
And to be honest, she sells here, but I think her international Dubai, US base is a lot more. Again, it's high end luxury. It's like very niche, very very niche.
Yeah. And I think she stuck to her, just like Van Cleef has stuck to her motive.
Yeah. And now there are rip-offs of this design.
No, you can make out. You can make.
No, you but this thing, they rip-off this design. Yeah. So,
but you know what? You're right. Every time I've worn the piece, I will always have at least one person stop me and be like, "Where did you get this? Can I get this? Where is it from?" Like,
yes, and he's like another Chennai designer who's again globally now they're everywhere. And I'm wearing her ring, and
what's it? This is
Eva.
ah.
I mean, it's really nice to see some designers from here who are also but very very niche market, very big.
Azania is not small. It's not small. She's not small.
Yeah, but I think that is growing in Chennai. If we'd say per se Chennai, then yes. But speaking of conversions, what type of CTAs work best for commodities like luxury commodities, right? Do direct CTAs, like I know there are like Shop Now and a lot of things on Instagram, or now even YouTube has so much of that. So what are these that work, or is there a more subtle approach that really works?
So I feel like if it's a luxury brand, an aspirational brand, the CTA shouldn't be too in your face because then you're losing the high end quality of it. You don't see high end brands actually selling as much. You see a high end brand talking about the brand, not so much calling for you to buy. It's more about brand awareness and telling stories about it. You can't use a Shop Now for a high end luxury brand, or maybe visit the website, or you'd see some designs or things like that. But Shop Now may not be the idea in the city for luxury, aspirational brands.
Right.
So the way you invite, see, you're selling luxury, right? It's aspirational brand, right? You have to make the customer feel like a VIP. So it could be something on the lines of, let's say, join the circle, VIP circle, you get a preview first, get their database. That's a great way of getting a database. Or it could be like by invitation only, DM to get an invite, or pass your number to get an invite, or, subtle ways of getting their information and then slowly then retargeting them again and again, with subtle thing. For example, if they came on your website and they were on your wish list, they put a product on a wish list, or, they were going to buy, but then they abandoned the cart, then subtly send them like, we have like a special discount only for you. You have to make the person feel special. I think it's very important because they are special. They are going to be like buying something that is expensive, right? So you have to make them feel that way, like for VIP. So I think subtle marketing, subtle things, in which just think about it. How can I make, like how you meet a friend and how do you make them feel special? Think that way. Now, I want to make this person feel special. I want to have this bond because, it's trust, it's credibility, it's so much more, right? And especially with jewelry, when I'm investing so much, I need to have that connect with the brand. So how can you do that? If you think that way, you should be able to get lovely CTAs.
And also, you don't want to stop with selling. The customer shouldn't be like, okay, I'm done selling one necklace and I'm done with that customer. No, it should be like, think of it the long term. Like a relation has to come back to my store only.
Only.
So how do you do that? Where you have to
a good relationship, good experience. That's what. Yeah. So the term influencer, right? It's thrown left, right, and center. At this point, I don't even think they're properly positioned in the whole market. They're that tons. Every second person is an influencer. They're either a content creator or an influencer. And this new Gen Z concept of doom scrolling when you're just doing it, you see so many people there. They're not even positioned properly anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So there are micro influencers, there are macro influencers. And so when we talk micro versus macro, what is it that differentiates them? What is it that, you know, these commodities can leverage from them? Or how do you even target the right kind of uh, influencer or content creator or whatever tag they go by?
So micro influencers are influencers, correct me if I'm wrong, about 30K and below, or even way below. So 5K and below. Yes. So I feel like the micro influencers are great for a niche market because uh, their following, the following that they have is only listening to them, and there's a very interactive, the what's the rate? The engagement rate is really high for a micro influencer. Whereas a macro influencer, they're a lakh and over. You have various people, always check in the influencer list how many men are following and how many women are following when it comes to the macro influencers, because that's very important for targeting. Uh, Make sure you get the engagement rate as well. So having said that, with the macro influencers, I think the conversion rate is a lot lesser, whereas the conversion rate is a lot more for your products, very targeted.
So, one of the things I think a lot of you may not know, I am an influencer and that's new to Chennai, but I also do influencer marketing for a lot of brands. So, I work with a lot of different categories. And unfortunately, not putting anybody down, but I feel as if most of the PR agencies in Chennai have a list that is used, like the same list is used for every category, which is not the case, right? You can't have the same influencers do jewelry and at the same time do fast food as well, right? So, number one, identifying the right influencer is very important, right? The one that has your niche target audience. Now, this is a tough one. As a brand owner, you are handling the brand. It's better to have an expert, someone like me, uh, to help you to identify the right influencer for your page. When your target audience and the followers of that influencer match, you can actually create magic. Like, it's amazing to see how influencer marketing can completely change the game for brands. We have had such lovely success stories, sometimes even with a single influencer. However, having said that, for jewelry, it's difficult, right? A couple of things for jewelry that I would recommend, especially for a traditional jewelry business. Number one, there are two types of influencers. Of course, the aspirational influencers, which is your celebrity endorsements, and the influencers with 1 million over followers who have like a cult following, and you do that for your brand awareness, aspirational awareness, whatever. The second is, of course, the niche that I'm talking about, where you create magic. Now, this can also be mid-size, like Bindya, like me, but also micro influencers. What happens with micro influencers is when I was at like 10,000 followers, I had a personal connect with each of my follower, right? I knew them by names. I was talking to them in the evenings. We would have discussions. They would be during COVID, we all got together to, help each other out. I had people like it was like a proper community. Like I felt as a part of the community. I knew my followers. At 300K, I don't know my followers anymore. I can't even answer the DMs, right? So I've lost the connect. But at 8,000, 5,000, these influencers have extremely great connect with their follower. When they say something, people are listening. If, for example, it's an influencer who is buying something new for their mother for the first time, like from my own money. It's a beautiful story. Connect with influencers like this where they have beautiful stories to say, which is not properly filmed. You need not accept the collaboration. Let them say the story on their page. And, even if you have like um, five people, 5 people inquiring and coming and making a purchase, it's a huge thing. I think now, because of social media, one of the uh, worst things I've seen is where, oh, I only got 10 likes or I only got 10 this thing. Imagine 10 people coming up and saying, wow, you look beautiful. Like, I would be like, you know, but it's not enough anymore. There's so much comparison. Imagine even if 5 customers come to your store from that particular reach, and that particular influencer will not be expensive. It'll be very easy to get her to come. You can even check a lot of these influencers are like trending, and you can come to know, like when they're trending, they have million hits. Again, ask me for help and I'll tell you. But you can identify the influencers who are, able to get you the right kind of audience to notice you. So that's one. Secondly, I feel as if for a traditional jewelry business, jewelry, as I said, for fast food, for example, or food, anything, if it's biryani, for example, I know if I give shout out today, tomorrow there'll be a line outside. For jewelry, I can't promise that. What is necessary is that you have like a long time brand ambassador kind of a campaign. You come to me, we do some campaign on a particular thing. Next time, maybe some new collection has come. I again come to your store. I'm constantly talking about your brand, and you keep when you say brand ambassador, you make sure that that particular influencer is taken care of, and she's not. Today she's talking about your brand. Tomorrow she's talking about another brand. So a few brand ambassadors, the ones who are known in the city, have them as your brand ambassadors. Let them be consistently talking about you. Maybe once every 2 months with your new collection, they come to your store, they talk about it. You start building the brand, the name in social media. The other thing I want to say is about consistency. I feel as if brands do one influencer and then they disappear and then that's it. It's over. For jewelry brand, you can't do that. Yeah, you can do for other FMCG, but for jewelry, you cannot. You have to have consistent marketing, which means, let's say you see me, I'm talking about Sultan Jewelry. Okay. And you're like, wow, Sultan Jewelry, new brand, nice, nice. And they go to his page and this is lovely. He does this really amazing videos. I love your videos. So I see these videos and I'm like, you know what? I need to go to Sultan Jewelry. I've never heard of Sultan Jewelry. I heard it through New to Chennai. I want to go. But what happens? Life happens. My husband is scolding. My kid is crying. I forgot about Sultan Gems. Now, let's say next week, I happen to see Bindya do the same thing. I'm like, oh, Sultan Gems, like I saw it on New to Chennai page. Let me, maybe this time she will actually call Sultan Gems, or she might go, or maybe she might do it in the third week. But what I'm saying is when I consistently see, because I'm bombarded with so much information, I need to see my brand, you have to see your brand being showcased through different influences consistently. I'm sorry, I talk a lot.
Also, actually, you know what? When it comes to jewelry, what I've realized from various jewelers that I've actually created content for in Chennai, the pieces actually matter and the variety of pieces matter. Because one or two pieces, exquisite pieces, you show it to the customer, they see it, they know, okay, fine, this jewelry brand is there, I'll go check it out. Whereas I know for a fact that certain brands have told me, 6 people have come and maybe 2 have turned into a conversion because of you. Thank you so much, blah, blah, blah. But that's because I would have shown at least 6 really nice pieces from that particular store so they know that there is an opportunity where they can see more designs over there. So they might like 1 or 2 that I wear, but you also have to, as a brand, you have to have at least that much when the customer comes back to you. So that is something that I wanted to add.
So now that we are talking about that, I think, like, at least for me as a jewelry designer, I don't want to put out a lot of my designs up because I spend so much time on it. I don't want to be putting it out on social media. So we don't.
Yeah.
Right? As both our brands, we don't do that. So then this new thing of indirect social media is going on, and I've seen like so many different ways people are doing it, right? I know a lot of people are doing podcasts now, right? There's a lot of indirect social media that is happening now. So how is that whole trend working? How is that helping with the brand awareness? Is that filling the gap between the awareness and the conversions? Or
See, when it comes to jewelry, I think visual is a huge aspect to it. You need to know what, and you're spending that much money. So you can tell a story, you can go to the person, but visually you need to see the product in front of you. Again, you're spending that much money. You want to see what the person has to offer, right? Whereas you talk about it, again, you talk about the jewelry brand XYZ. They have really nice diamond collection. They have really nice, whatever, precious stones. The designs are brand new or antique designs is something. They have to have one particular niche. Like, for example, if you bring up and say, this brand is making only antiques and they're reviving a particular thing. So there's a story behind that, right? So then you're curious. And you talk about it, you're curious. You're like, okay, if you're a kind of person who is like me, who likes like old designs, who likes tradition and, things like that, I'll want to come back to that. But if it's just going to be a random jewelry store that says, oh, we have, how is it going to, through podcasts, it still doesn't. But at least personally for me, it doesn't. I need to visually see what it is that you're selling.
Yeah. I completely agree. Podcast, I wouldn't be able to, and yeah, I don't even think I'll listen.
us. To motivate him podcast to sing away, getting say things like that. Not for jewelry. I don't think so.
Yeah. 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 So, so there is another segment of pocket friendly jewelry, right? So they, I feel, have leveraged social media a lot more than maybe a little niche segment has. So with affiliate links and all of these new features that social media keeps coming up with, um, their consumer conversions through social media, I think, is a lot higher, right? So what is it that is working there or is not working there for the conversions to be happening?
These are companies with price points that are quite low, no?
Yeah, pocket friendly jewelry. Yeah, that's where it starts.
Anything budget friendly, pocket friendly.
Impulse buy, right?
Yes, yeah.
How much you would spend for an impulse? I mean, I don't know, again, subjective, but how much would a person want to spend on something that they see now? You go to exhibitions now, for jewelry exhibitions, you have earrings, or even if you go for a good, nice earring, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong again, at least 6-7 lakhs, if really nice piece, right? But if you think of just the small ones that are 1-2, it's again subjective.
Hmm.
You might want to be like, okay, I don't mind picking it up if it's a really nice design and you're really, really sure of the quality and so, you'll pick it up.
Yeah.
So I feel like certain necklaces that are really heavy, 30 lakhs, I don't know. I mean, I feel like you may not want to.
Yeah.
Conversion is just equal to price.
Equal to price, right?
And I think price points is a great way of also getting as I said, there's brand loyalty, right? So let's say you have like, especially like occasions like not wedding, sorry, Valentine, for example. So that's a great time of, by seeing like 10,000, 15,000, I don't know with the gold rate if it's possible, but the small pendant, the small things, get them to come to your store. Like once they come to their store, so that when they're making the big purchase for their wedding or this thing, they'll make note. The mothers will make note, the mothers-in-law will make note. So let them first come to you for the small purchases. Let them get comfortable with you, and then I think the big purchase happens. So it's a great way of reaching out to your audience, especially to the masses who save up for this occasion, for this wedding occasion, or, for that special occasion to spend. So, and that is, India is the mass market, right? And I think that's a great way of getting them to come. Like have these Instagram ads, Facebook ads with Shop Now, because that will work for something like a budget friendly find. Yeah, and I mean Carrot Lane. Yeah, so also, they had and jewelry for 20,000 also.
Yeah, you can. No, of course you have. So I'm just saying, I was going to say, like, when you earlier back in the day, I was just telling you again, where my in-laws had the car, you will come and make sure that everything is right in front of them, where they see the jewelry being made, making sure there's no wastage and this and that. Whereas now, I think the loyalty still falls back on the relationship that the customer shares with the jeweler. It always, whether it's a 1,30,000 or a crore, whatever it is, that relationship matters.
Yeah. So when we talk about social media, it's a lot more than just Instagram and YouTube Reels and Shorts, right? You have SEO, and then you have Google ads, there's so many different ads. And now they're also like cross branding, where one engagement leads you to another. So I know when a social media company comes to pitch, all of them have the same thing. I'm going to do a website for you. I'm going to have SEO every month. I'm going to put these tags. I'm going to do your shots. I'm going to reels. I'm going to do statics. It's the standard thing.
Add in the PR also for an event.
Yeah. So they have the standard thing that they just come with, right? So is this cross branding really paying off? Does it, I know it brings on a Google search, your brand just comes on top. It does that. But what else is all this doing? Are they all really necessary? What is actually needed? What is not needed is just a part of the package, because,
So I don't know. I'm actually in the verge for my own brand, looking at various digital marketing agencies. So I have really looked at various from Bombay, Delhi, Chennai, Bangalore. All of them pitch retainer, and then you spend whatever amount you have, you spend as long as the retainer. Now the ROAS on that, maybe not. This is the ideal. I mean, ideally you want the ROAS to start from the first month on, because you're spending that much money in marketing. But As you keep going, they'll be like, no, we'll increase it. It'll come to 3 ROAS. It'll come to which doesn't really happen in the first 6 months at all. And you have to keep, and you're wondering, why am I paying retainer this much? Whereas my conversions and my thing is not, it's not, the thing is not happening, the engagement. So then you're like, okay, you change the agency. Next thing comes is you change. Then again, you start the process again. So finding a good digital marketing agency, making sure that all the aspects of from starting with the website, making sure your website is cleaned up and done, because that is very important. I think the website is the main thing, right? Well, that's the face of the brand. So when a person wants to see if you have a website online, you see the face of the brand. Or when it comes to social media, that will be the face of the brand. So that has to be impeccably correct and attractive. So that's feedback I've always gotten. Make sure that the face of the brand is first. Yeah. I mean, she's also an expert in this, so she'll tell you better.
I personally feel, unfortunately, again, I just feel that the PR agencies are a little. Isn't that getting recorded? I'm just scared. Okay, I feel that especially for jewelry, there's so much high investment that you guys do, right? I would say pay big money, get a person who has experience, hire him and let him do the work. He's loyal to you. He's your employee, and he'll work way harder than any other PR agency. Somebody with the experience, pay big money and get him to hire him.
In-house for jewelry.
Because that's a long-term process, right? You have to do the social media, you have to do the PR, you have people available.
But actually, PR events do make a huge difference, because you're positioning your brand. It kind of depends on where you're doing the event, who you're collaborating with, and how you're positioning your brand. So PR helps with positioning, not so much as you might get sales, at least new customers, but your brand positioning is done with PR, with the events.
Yeah, so it's a combination of everything, right? So you have to, I'm not saying don't have a PR person, but I'm just saying that a person who's handling your website, your social media, to some extent PR as well. And then you have, those experts in the city who can get you all those press releases. Even that, actually, it's pretty much a template.
Right.
And if somebody with experience, you can get on board, that will be
in-house is ideally better, but agencies.
Lastly, where do you see influencer marketing heading in the next 5 years? What is this next new thing that luxury commodities need to start prepping for? And for effective communication and conversions, what do these brands really have to do?
I think AI is taking over.
I know. As much as I hate AI, so do I. I just think it's going to help a lot.
I have a feeling a lot of these luxury brands are going to have like their own AI model, and then we'll follow them. Like we follow an LV AI model, which will be a face, and I'll be in love with them, and whatever she wears, I'm also going to wear. I have a feeling that's what's going to happen. It's not going to be real people. It's going to be just imaginary representation of that particular brand, where she wears clothes in a certain way, she dresses in a certain way, and everything she wears is something that you would aspire to be. I think that's what's going to be the next.
When it comes to brands and jewelry as a category, I feel like AI, even on the other, not from social media, but from the website point of view, from the marketing point of view, it's going to add a lot.
Yeah.
Because you don't need, like she says, models anymore. You use AI, or maybe put a picture of you, and it's already changing. Like you can see different sets, how it looks on you.
Yeah.
Various things like that from the marketing side. But also, I feel like long-term associations is going to be a part of in the next 5 years. It's not going to be these micro short form. It's going to be a long-term association. And those would, like for FMCG brands, again, like she says, one influencer today, next influencer tomorrow. It's not going to be like might tend to be a consistent same person trying to sell the same product over and over again, because this trust that's built over the next years. So
the next big thing everyone needs to be prepped for is AI influencer.
Definitely
AI, I think so.
Thank you, Bindya and Farhana, for being with us. I know for a fact they are extremely busy, but yet they have shared their time with us and their valuable insights. In fact, it ended up being a crash course of how to become an influencer.